Okay, so insert function dialog box. We can walk through each one of these and I can let you know like what they are going to do for you. Because when you open up your dialog box, like I said, if you don't know what specific operation you're looking for, but you know what you want to do within that operation, so if I wanted to add, if I wanted to subtract, it would bring up what I needed in order to do that function. So on your dialog box itself, let's take a look at that and walk through the section of it. So we're going to go back home and we're going to click on our dialog. Okay, so the first one is going to be, let's search for a function. Okay, so we're just going to stick with adding and then click go. Okay, so it tells you if you want recommended, most recently used, all. So if you want all within the financial, date, trig, text, logical, any of that, I'm going to stick with recommended because it's probably going to have some in here. Okay, so remember you can click on that and here is the information at the very bottom of it if you want to do the sum, which is a range of cells, and it's going to add all those numbers, and then click OK. The next part of the dialog box that comes up is going to be your numbers. So this is where you're going to add in these particular areas. You can click on here and it will lower that dialog box to where it shows you where you're adding at. And if you wanted to change that, you could. And then we'll say like D12. And then it will come back here. Probably want to stick with D9. Okay, and then if you wanted to add anything else, and it's already going to give you your total down here. Okay, so it tells you that D2 through D9, this is already giving you all of this information up here on what's going to be added, and then it already tells you a total down here. So it's telling you what it's going to do, the answer that you have, and the result of the formula. Obviously, I cannot do that because D9 is all the way down below, and it has no value. Okay, the other thing that you can use that for is if you wanted to go into your arguments again. Okay, you can add your cells in here. So I have 3, 4, 5. So even if I wanted to go here and go D2, and then in here go D3. Okay, and it would tell me each one of these, and then if I wanted in 5, so like D4, it's totaling all of this information for me as I put it in. So I'm going to know exactly what my formula is going to state. Okay, and so far that's what it has in that formula box. Okay, but it only has D2, D3, D4. So this is where you would use your commas, but most likely you're going to turn around and go your D2 colon D6. Okay, so that's what that's going to do, but you could do it either which way and it'll show you the results. Okay, so in your function argument, here's your little areas. So you can collapse your dialog box button. Okay, so that's where we had the bar just at the top, and then we have this. You have your required argument. What do you want it to say? You have your optional arguments. Do you want to add anything to those arguments? Your function description. So this one tells me that this is min. Okay, so that's my function, and it's going to return the smallest number in a set of values and ignore logical values in text. So out of all of these, what is going to be my minimum number? Okay, and then you have your formula result. So far, the 65,500 is going to be my minimum, and so far that's what it's returning here until I put maybe a different minimum here. And then you have your argument description. It's going to tell you what it wants, like what you're doing, why you're putting this in, what are you doing with it. Okay, and we talked about our AUTOSUM feature. This is going to add up the values in a row or column, so you can either go to your formula tab, function library, and go AUTOSUM, or you can go to your Home tab, Editing, and Home. Okay, so let's look at that. So here's your Home, here's Editing, here's AUTOSUM. Okay, so remember, if you click on AUTOSUM, it's going to add up all of those that are sitting within that box above where you're putting your AUTOSUM. Okay, so that's your first place, and then your second place is going to be formulas. Here's your AUTOSUM again. And we're going to do sum, and you get the same exact results. Okay, so 2 places for the same exact thing. It's just whatever you're most comfortable with and going into. Okay, so then you have formula autocomplete feature. Okay, so once I start, I can do equals sum, and it's going to tell me that this adds up all the range. But if I type in equals, it will also drop down a box. So it tells me all the options that I have for the sum option. And then the selected functions tooltip tells me what I'm getting ready to do. So if I start typing in sum, it may say, well, do you want to do sum, or do you want to do sum if or ifs? Sum of product, sum SQ. So a lot of that will come up, but really the one that you use the most is going to probably be on the top. So if I were to come here and I would say equals sum. Okay, so there's my information of what I could choose. This tells me that it's going to add up all the numbers. I could go sum if. It tells me it's going to add the cells specified by a given condition or criteria. Sum ifs. And then your sum product. So, but most likely I'm going to use sum, and that's the one that I want to keep it at. And the same thing will go like if you do date. Okay, so it'll tell you date or date value if you wanted to do that. But remember, it's not going to recognize what you want to do until you put that equal sign in front of there. I'll probably stress that through the whole thing. Okay, so moving forward, let's go ahead and practice some of these. If you would like to take a couple of your sheets and just plug in some numbers. Okay, so we can start a new sheet. So remember, that is a plus sign down here at the bottom. It is going to have a new sheet. Okay, so I can put product, and I will make that bigger for you. I'll hit Control and then scroll my mouse up. Okay, and then I will put cost, and then I will put we'll put tax again, and then we'll put total cost. Okay, so if you were making this from scratch, then you could put product, and you could just put widgets and nails and bolts. Okay, and your widgets are going to be $1.25. Your nails are going to be $2.25. Those are going to be big nails. And your bolts are going to be $2. Okay, and our tax is going to be, now see how this $2, it's not in the right, because even though I put in 2.00, okay, it's not going to have that for me. So I can easily go back to my home and see where these 0 buttons are. Okay, so if I want to add zeros, then I would go this way. If I wanted to take away those zeros and decrease the decimal, I would go that way. So if I want it all formulated in one place, then that's what I would do. Okay, so then I'm going to put 8% for my tax. And you can either do this in all of your columns, or you can just have it down here as your tax down here. Okay, so I will do it 3 different ways. So the first way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to put equals, and I'm going to put B2, and then times C2. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter. Whoops, it's going to be total tax. and this will be total cost. And I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so my other option is since all that's going to be the same, I can either auto do it. Okay, so I'm going to autofill. Or if I don't want to autofill, then I can do my equals, and then I can click on this one because that's the formula I'm using, times, click on this one and hit enter. And then I can hit equals, and I can go B2, nope, sorry, B4 times C4, and then enter. Okay, so if now I want my cost plus my tax, right? So this one should be 10 cents. So I'm going to extend that out just so it looks the same as everything else. Okay, so now I'm going to do AUTOSUM. So I'm going to do sum. Okay, so it already tells me that that's what it's doing, and I'm going to do open parentheses. And I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to do plus. And then click on here, and then close my parentheses. Okay, so that tells me that that total is going to be $1.35. Okay, so my next way to do that is equals B2, oops, sorry, B3, plus D3. And it doesn't matter if you capitalize it or if you don't. Okay, so it tells me that's still a formula. So I'm going to just hit enter. So that's going to be a total cost of $2.43. And then I'm going to do an AUTOSUM. See, and it wants to AUTOSUM this up here. That's not what I want it to do. I want it to AUTOSUM this, hit control, and this. Okay, and that one's going to be $2.16. Okay, so then my total cost, if this is what I was going to do, okay, then I would autofill. And that's going to do E2 through E4 with my colon in the middle, so it's going to take that whole range. And so that total cost is going to be $5.94. That's just for one of each of those. Okay, so that's kind of how you want to build your spreadsheet, and take a look at that if you want to do any type of product. If you're in like some kind of production to where you have to get information from vendors, and you want to do prices on them, and you want to see if that price is going up or down, or whatever the case may be. Like say you get vendors and you bought the product for $1.25 this month, but then next month that went up to $1.35 without tax. So you know that that's a 10-cent difference. But you may want to keep track of that by using your formulas to say, okay, now it's this cost, so now it's $1.35. So now it's $1.35 when I hit enter, because there is a formula over here that will change, and that's going to go to $1.46, and now I'm at $6.05. So know that when you change it and it's in the formula, so if your tax rate, let's say your tax rate goes down to 7% and you hit enter, then that's going to change this and it's going to change this. So anytime that you have all of that connected within your formula, that will change as soon as you change those numbers. Okay, so topic C is where we're moving on to next. This is going to reuse formulas and functions. So here's your formulas and the cut, copy, and paste commands. Now, we did autofill on formulas. So if you wanted to copy a formula, you can't exactly just Control C and Control V. Okay, remember those shortcuts that we went through? So instead of doing Control C to copy, you can still do that, but when you paste, you have to do a special paste on this FX for your formula. So that is the biggest difference. You can't just do Control V as in Victor if you wanted to paste that. Okay, so then you have to do paste special, and you want to do paste special on all or formulas, and then you have to choose what you want to do, and you have to choose what you want it to do. So if you want it to add, subtract, multiply, if you want it to be a formula, if you want it to be column widths or whatever. So what are we pasting? What are we going to tell it to do when we do copy? Okay, so let's take a look at this before we go on to relative and absolute. Okay, so this is my formula. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these formulas. Okay, so this is my original formula. And so instead of auto-filling, okay, let's just say I want to Control-C it, okay, for copy, or you can right-click and copy, or you can come up here and copy, either which way. And then I want to take this formula and I want to paste it. You have to go to Paste Special, and you have to go to Formula. Okay, so then it takes and it pastes that formula. Okay, so that is your formula that it's pasting itself. So each one of those, if you were going to copy and paste that formula down, so instead of auto-filling, you would just Control-C or copy, right-click, Control Special on your formula. So anytime that you have that, and here's your other specials. So these are the ones that I've used previously, and it's also down here in your thing. Now, you can go to Paste Special, like if you're doing a huge sheet. So when you go to Paste Special, it actually brings up this dialog box for you. So then you want to tell it that I want to paste the formulas, and I want to paste it in addition. That's the operation that I want it to do. And then you would hit OK, and then it would add these two together, and then give you your total. Okay, so this one added these two, not these two. So I'd have to be very specific on that formula itself. Okay, so then we have relative and absolute reference. Okay, so our relative and absolute reference. Relative means that it is going to be a cell or range reference that will change when you move or copy a formula from one cell to another. So if you have A2 and you copy that and it changes, that means it's going to go A2, A3, A4. So remember, that's the one that's going to constantly change. Okay, when you have an absolute, this is a particular cell that does not change when you move or copy formulas to another cell. But you have to put the $A, $2. So if I were to copy that, being in its original A2 formula, then it would go A2, A3, A4, A5. But if I have it as $A, $2, then that means that whatever I'm doing with this, okay, is going to remain times A2. So if we took this, and we will go back to our product sheet, and I wanted this to remain the consistent because that's our sales tax. So what I would do is I would take this, that instead of going B9, okay, so each time that this is going to change, my B2 is going to change because it'll go B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, but this is going to stay the same. So I'm going to go $B, $9. Okay, same thing. So then if I pasted that formula all the way down, my numbers are going to stay the same, but you'll show that this B and this 9 now have $signs in each one of those formulas. So that is my absolute. That is the one that I absolutely positively do not want to change. And then you will have your relative, which will change with each and every cell. Okay, and then you have mixed reference. So cell or range references in which either the column or the row header is the absolute, but the other reference is a relative. So I want A to change, so I want to go from A, B, C, D, so forth and so on, but I want the 2 to stay the same. So even though like maybe my 8% is in column 2, then I want my 8% to stay the same, but if it's a different tax rate or a different number, then I want the A part to change. So I want B to change, okay, but I want the B9 to be the same, so I'd put $9. That is a little bit confusing. So just to make sure that you understand, A2, if it's relative, will change in this status that you have it in right now. If you have $A, $2, and you copy and paste formula, it will not change. It will do whatever you want it to do, like add, subtract, multiply by that area, and that will remain the same. So I absolutely do not want that to change, absolute. And then your mixed references if you want A to change for your column, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but you do not want the 2 to change, then you would put $2. Okay, so this is a relative reference. Okay, so this is A1 to C1. So this is adding A1 right here. So it's adding A1, B1, C1. So A1 to C1. Okay, if I copy that formula down, then it's going to go A2 to C2. Copy it down. A3 to C3. So those are going to change each and every time that I go through that function. When you have an absolute reference, okay, so you have D2, this is your relative, okay, so here's D2, your total, and then $G, $4. So we're multiplying that by 0.08. So that is the rate that we are multiplying this total by. Okay, so my relative is D2, D3, because that is going to change all the way down. But each one of those cells right here are going to be multiplied by G4. So I need a $G, $4, because I need that to stay the same when I autofill it down. Here is your mix reference. Okay, so let's look. We have B2. So here is B2, 685. My B is staying the same. My 2 is not. Times 1 minus B. My B is staying the same, or my B is changing, sorry. $7. Okay, so B7 is down here. So we are going to decrease every one of those cells by 0.1. So that's what it's talking about. This cell will stay. 7 is the remainder of everything, and then the $B2. So that will go from B2 to B3 to B4, but B stays the same. This will be multiplied by the 7, the B7 cell, but 7 is the cell that stays the same. So that is your mixed reference on that one. Okay, autofilling formulas. You're going to click and drag down with the handle, or you can double click and it will autofill for you. So again, multiple ways to do one thing. So here is, we're going to delete these formulas out. Here is my formula. So I can either take my plus sign, that's a solid black plus sign, and I can autofill it all the way down, and there it goes. Or let me delete that. Or if my formula is in here, I still have to have my black solid plus sign, but then I just double click and it fills it all the way down. So different ways that you can do the same exact thing. Just depends on your preference. Okay, so this is how you do a worksheet reference. So you are in your actual workbook. Okay, so your workbook is this whole entire thing and every sheet that's included in it. Okay, your worksheets are going to be each sheet that you have open on the bottom tabs. So you can reference different worksheets in a workbook in order to not copy and paste your formula each time. Okay, so you have your cell reference. So you have equals sum, and then you would have F2 to F5. Okay, so that's our sum. And then we're going to have sheet 2 with an exclamation point, and then A10. So each time that we do a sum, we want to add all of that in there. So that is our cell reference. This is our worksheet reference. So now I want F2 to F5, and I also want A10 in my summary. Okay, different Excel errors. When you get an Excel error and it goes through, like if you have your hashtags, or you have your hashtag value, or your divide 0, or your reference, all of this means something. It means that you need to definitely check your formula. Okay, so if you have all hashtags, then this means that this is the most common cause of this error. They call them railroad tracks. And so this is the column is too narrow to display all cell content. So what do? You adjust your cell or your column. So if I were to come here and I were to close this a little bit, see all my railroad tracks, or what I call hashtags, pound signs, however you want to call it. That just means that my column is not big enough to support that. So I just double click B, it brings it all back out. Okay, easy fix. Okay, so then you have hashtag value. This is an Excel formula that has encountered an unexpected value. So for example, text where it thinks numeric value should be. Okay, so if I have something over here and it thinks that that needs to be, instead of equals sum, and I don't have parentheses, okay, it doesn't like it, and so it will put all zeros there. But the other thing is that, sorry, let me undo that. The other thing is that it thinks that there's a number, or a letter there that shouldn't be there. Okay, so maybe I didn't spell sum correctly. Maybe I put a V in there when I was trying to hit Control V to paste, whatever the case may be. So that will be your hashtag value. All you do is you correct the data entry or the cell reference in the formula, or enter a different formula. So maybe you didn't spell the date formula correctly and you have equals date and it didn't like it. So it's not sure what you're wanting to do. Then you have the pound sign div and then divided by 0 exclamation point. So this one is going to be a formula that you have entered, forcing Excel to divide a value by 0. Can't do that. Okay, so this can happen either when 0 is the value in the cell or a cell contains no value at all. So if you are missing data out of a cell and you're trying to divide it, it's not going to divide something it can't find. Okay, so you just simply correct the data information in the cell that it's trying to reference. Okay, and then you have hashtag reference, and this one is going to be, it indicates an invalid reference. So one common cause is deleting a cell that the formula has a reference in. Okay, so this one has the reference of B2 and C2. Okay, I know that because if I double click on it, that's what comes highlighted. Okay, so if I were to come in here and I were to delete this, well, it didn't do it because it's still trying to recognize that there's nothing there, so there's no value. Okay, so if I were to take out the 8% and it has 0 value here, it's not going to like any of that information, so it does come off with my zeros there. Okay, so I add my 8% back. So just be careful of whatever you have in your formula. It may change it and it may give you that particular error message. And then you have null. And this is if you have tried to reference the intersection of two ranges that do not actually intersect. Okay, so you just correct the intersection that it was. So with that space, when we were talking about like the A1 through J1 and then the space, so if it doesn't really intersect there, then it probably doesn't need to go there. You need to check your intersection. Okay, and then you have a green triangle. So this means that this is either an inconsistent formula and you have a drop-down menu, but it just says that there is a cell with an error indicated. Okay, it'll try to help you on what the error actually is with that green little triangle here. And so that way you are able to fix it whenever you can. And just, you have to kind of figure out what's actually going on with it at that time. Okay, so that is all for section 2. Please stay tuned for section 3. For unit 3, we are going to move on, and in unit 3 you will see that we are going to be modifying a worksheet, and that includes inserting and deleting and adjusting cells, columns, and rows. We will also search and replace data, and then we will check the spelling in a worksheet.